5 on International Women's Day, Portland women making their voices heard.
We just want to be treated as humans, not treated as a currency.
Plus a potential breakthrough in a nearly 70-year-old cold case of a missing Portland family. And amid uncertainty around federal funding, Washington lawmakers try to increase support for schools.
Schools should not have to scramble for resources.
And thanks so much for joining us here at 5. I'm John Adams. This weekend, protests continue in Portland with large crowds showing up to the waterfront on International Women's Day. Our Alma McCarty joins us here in the studio. And Alma, you spoke to several people there rallying today.
Yeah, John, the core message of today's rally was the opposition to the Trump administration and many of the president's stances and policies. Now, the demonstrators tell me that this is the time to join together and speak out to defend the rights, the bodies, and the future of women.
We want equal pay. We want equal rights. It shouldn't be that hard.
A call to action in downtown Portland.
It's a gathering for all, old, young, men, women, and everybody in between.
On International Women's Day, the message to unite and to resist, spelled out loud and clear along the waterfront.
People need to get out and protest, be loud, let everybody know how you feel.
You're supposed to come here to America for freedom of rights for all, and that you should feel welcome here. It's not the America that I came to.
We can't stand what's going on in our country right now because of Trump and Musk.
It's a great time to show our resistance and be community together.
Sue Jacoby and Susan Baumgarten began attending marches and protests decades ago, objecting to the Vietnam War and to the Iraq War.
And then we were here for the Women's March, where we were squished in so tight.
100,000 people.
Here with our granddaughter.
This is what democracy looks like.
That historic worldwide protest took place more than 7 years ago, although many of the same themes remain. Demonstrators demanding equal rights, showing support for countries like Ukraine, and fighting back against cuts to federal funds and the federal workforce.
It's not fair that they want to take away resources from the people who need it the most, because then once you take away these resources, what's going to happen to these people? You're going to put them on the streets, but then when you put them on the streets, you're going to do everything they can to clear them out.
The energy of this movement won't be contained to just this day, with many telling me they'll continue mobilizing and speaking out.
History shows that peaceful protests, when they get large enough, and we're getting there, it's building, so please, everybody get out and protest.
In Northwest Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
New tonight, a former Milwaukee police officer has been arrested on child sex abuse charges. It follows more than a year-long investigation. 57-year-old John Foreman, a sergeant with the Milwaukee Police Department, was put on leave in June of last year and resigned last month. This past week, a grand jury indicted him on 7 counts of encouraging child sex abuse and 2 other counts of attempting encouraging child sex abuse. Yesterday evening, Foreman turned himself into the Clackamas County Jail. He is being held without bail. And continuing coverage near the Oregon coast, where search teams continue looking for a missing 2-year-old. Dane Paulson was last seen last Saturday night playing in the front of his home in Siletz, which is near the Siletz River. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office shared photos today showing boats searching along the river using sonar and underwater drones. There's no suspicion of criminal activity at this time, but if you have any information to report, call the tip line 541-265-0669. Now to an update on a cold case investigators have been trying to solve for nearly 7 decades. They're now closer to a conclusion after a piece of a car was pulled from the bottom of the Columbia River. Investigators believe the car belonged to the Martin family of Portland. They disappeared back in 1958. Our Catherine Cook looks into what it took to uncover what may be their biggest clue.
We knew it was going to be challenging.
On the Columbia River in Cascade Locks.
They worked and worked and worked.
Days of work ended with this breathtaking moment as crews drew up this old chassis. A huge clue in a 66-year-old cold case and maybe a conclusion to it. Could this be the station wagon that carried the Martin family back in 1958? Mom, Dad, and 3 little girls had driven from Portland to the gorge that December to pick greenery, but never returned.
They're fairly confident that they can make an identification of the car, which is a big step.
Hood River County Sheriff Matt English said the car was submerged in 50 feet of water and 7 feet of debris.
It's been in there for 66 years, and so it's really rusty and really falling apart.
English said the car did not contain human remains due to debris, but the engine was intact and appeared to be in good shape.
They're going to take that vehicle back to our secure facility. They hope to start processing a bit tonight.
I mean, I've always believed that it was an accident.
Archer Mayo, an independent diver, learned about the Martin case 7 years ago. He discovered the car on this dive last fall. Using police clues, he formed a theory on where the car was buried.
So there was a complication there that nobody knew about. It was this feature of the canal that actually trapped the car. And once I knew that existed, and I actually found that in the Oregon Historical Society in archives. And so I looked at a 130-year-old photograph and instantly solved the 70-year-old mystery.
Friday marked day 2 of retrieval efforts on the Columbia. Ann Anderson, who's followed the case for decades, drove out from Kaiser to watch.
I'm surprised they found it at all. And I thought, well, let's just go up and see what's happening. Obviously, we can't see much.
Months after the Martins went missing, authorities recovered the bodies of the 2 youngest daughters from the river. But the bodies of the couple and their oldest daughter were never found. English says it's possible they'll never know exactly what happened.
This may be as far as we can get because it's really unclear what's left in there.
That was our Catherine Cook reporting. The sheriff told us crews found at least 3 submerged vehicles during their search. But again, the one they retrieved on Friday is the one they were looking for. All right, it was another great start to the weekend with a mix of clouds and sunshine out there and dry weather. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri is joining us to let us know if we'll see these dry conditions continue into Sunday. Joe?
We will. Good afternoon to you, John. Yeah, we will for a good portion of the day tomorrow, but heading into the later part of the afternoon and evening, I think the window where we do see some changes will be between 5 tomorrow night and at about 8 o'clock or so. Kind of that 3-hour window, we'll start to see some rain move in. But in between now and then, we are going to be remaining dry, just a few high clouds kind of filtering in right now. And for tomorrow, we're going to see a mix of clouds and sunshine a good portion of the day. Temperatures starting out will be right around the mid to the upper 40s. By midday, again, a mild day. Temperatures by, I'd say, lunchtime or where we should be for this time of year, right around 55 degrees with a daytime high of 60 degrees. Clouds will start to move through, though, heading into the later part of tomorrow afternoon. Sunrise tomorrow, 7:33. The sunrise, I have those mixed up. The sunset should be 7:09. I'll change that for you. I kind of messed up that graphic. But my point being, John, not only are we going to be seeing some changes with the rain, but again, tomorrow marks daylight saving time. So you lose an hour of sleep, but we'll be getting a little more daylight. And here's a look at when the timing on when those showers will start to move in. Along the coast, late afternoon. But again, we stay dry until about 5 o'clock tomorrow. And then right around, again, later part of the evening, we'll start to see some showers move through, and it will be kind of a wet end to your weekend, but I'll talk more about your detailed forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Joe, we'll see you then. In Washington, police arrested a man in an animal cruelty case just hours after reaching out for help on social media. Battleground officers started investigating after finding 9 abandoned dogs in a home on Southwest 5th Street back in November. 5 were dead, the other 4 severely malnourished. They identified the suspect as 35-year-old Andre Terwilliger, and earlier this week, Clark County Sheriff's deputies brought him into custody. He's now set to face 1st and 2nd degree animal cruelty charges. One person will soon face federal drug trafficking charges after officers seized about 40 pounds worth of illegal narcotics. It's after a traffic stop late February on I-5 revealed 29 pounds of methamphetamine. Police followed up with a search warrant and seized nearly 10 more pounds of drugs, including heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl powder. Washington school districts facing budget cuts might get some help from the state. Budget problems have led to closed schools, teacher layoffs, and crowded classrooms across Washington. This week, the Senate passed a bill to increase funding for maintenance, supplies, and operational costs by about $120 million a year.
Schools should be able to focus on students. Schools should not have to scramble for resources, Mr. President. And this is about making sure that every district, no matter where a district is located, Mr. President, is able to provide a high-quality education to every single student in that district.
Next week, the Senate is expected to pass a bill to boost special education funding. The bills to boost school transportation funding and provide free breakfast and lunch don't appear likely to pass.